So we've been talking about you coming out already, right? So I would jump on this question, like, when did you came out, and who was the person that who knew or you opened up about it?
Do you know what? I'm going to change that question.
Okay.
I'm going to answer that question and I'm going to add a question prior to it. So the question that I would like to answer before answering that is something like, sorry to be so bossy,
No,
but
it's fine.
but it's you know, I think the best question to ask if we're talking about coming out of the closet and when I did in my journey, it's one thing for me to have gone through my journey. Everyone's journey is going to be totally different. In a lot of ways, I was blessed with a great journey for it. In the end, if you really look back, it was great. Well, it wasn't great. It was good. It was healthy. It wasn't unhealthy. It wasn't, you know, it didn't have me in a psychologist or psychiatrist chair for months on end. But the reality is, I get asked a lot, you know, when should I come out? And before we start talking about when I decided to come out, I want to tell you that you do it when it's right for you. You know, don't let anybody pressure you into doing it at all. And if you know someone who is and they've confided in you with that, then embrace it and don't put any pressure on it, because first of all, big thing, there is never a good time to do it. There's never a good time. Like, you could say, oh, well, you know, maybe next month, or maybe my mom or dad aren't feeling good this week, or, you know, it doesn't matter. You cannot predict the future, and you can only, you know, there's just no good time, there's no bad time. So, you know, when you do it, just make sure it feels right for you. As much as possible. It's never gonna feel perfect. It's never, you know, for my journey, I kind of fell in love. So I met somebody, and just to give you some context, like, I'm very close with my parents and always have been. I'm an only child, and have always been close. And, you know, my parents have been married now for over 40 some odd years. And, you know, we pretty decent average kind of background. And, you know, I came out at a time where I couldn't keep it in anymore. And there were a couple things that had happened just before I came out that definitely would have made most people say, well, no way, I am not coming out, I'm not divulging my big secret. And I still did, and I have no regrets whatsoever. You know, part of the thing, to you, the person coming out, it feels like a celebration and a weight lifted off your shoulders. And yeah, that's very true. You're actually disposing of something very secretive that most people don't know about. But to other people who really love you and who have known you for a long time, sometimes it's challenging. And I would definitely like to talk about that perspective too. But I remember I came out to a very close friend of mine first, and then I came out to my girlfriend.
Oh.
So.
Wow, that's a bomb. Okay.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bomb, but, but it ended up okay. It wasn't the end of the world. There were lots of tears involved on both sides, but yeah, I felt comfortable enough to say something. And I did, and it went out, it was fine. But then after I told those two girls, I had told my mother after that. So she was my next chosen one.
Okay, since you already jumped on that category, so when you open up to your mother, how did they take it? Like,
so let me paint you the picture.
Okay.
All right. So, you know, first year university, studying science, and total book nerd, who kind of just fell in love. And it was actually on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Okay. 1995 or 1996 actually. And I think I was still living at home, and I basically walked in, went upstairs in the kitchen, and my mother was there, and I was ready to tell her. And I was so scared. Like, I'm a very confident person, and I don't get scared very easily, or nervous, or have panic attacks or anything. So, but I was panicking. My heart was just, thumping out of my chest. But, I remember I looked at my mom. She was kind of like baking and washing dishes, and she was over by the sink and she was cleaning. And I had said to her, I said, I was just sitting like at a table nearby, and I said, Mom, what is the worst thing I could possibly tell you? And she's like, for real? And I said, yeah, for real. Like, what is the worst thing I could possibly tell you as your son? And she said, well, I don't know, did you kill somebody? And I'm like, yes! I'm like, okay, that's a win. That's a win. No, I did not kill anybody. That's not the worst thing that could happen to her. So, and I said, no, I said I didn't kill anybody. And then she said, I don't know. She's like, do you like men? And I didn't answer her.
Oh my gosh. And
I could feel her heart stop because mine stopped. And I'm like, oh my God, how's she gonna deal with this right now? And she turned around and she looked at me and she's like, you're gay? And I said, yeah, I am gay. And she's like, okay. And she was processing it. It was, I mean, I think especially when you have your own, one child, and, you've raised that child and you know that child inside and out for as many years as you do, you would think that you know everything about them, and sometimes that's not the case. And I'm sure she felt like she didn't know who I was at that point in time. Like, I don't know you. And that's very normal for parents to feel that way. They feel it's their own conjured up self-betrayal in a way, because they feel like, I don't know you. I should have known that because I've raised you. You were my baby. You're my child. You're my, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. But I just want to, because when you opened up to her, like, and she asked you, like, if you like men, don't you think she had an idea already about that? Or, like, she's just waiting for, like, confirmation from you?
Yeah.
Kind of
That
thing?
would have been a perfect circumstance. Unfortunately, it was not mine. And we've gone back to ask that question. I think nowadays, it's far more heard and talked about. Back then, I know it doesn't seem like that long ago. When were you born? Like 1990? Yeah, okay, I was in grade 10 at that time. So, different times. Definitely different time. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it was in our movement. And honestly, my parents, they didn't have a lot of, they didn't have any gay friends. They didn't have any, actually all the people that they knew or heard were gay, they weren't looked at in a very good light. So I was up against a stack of bad things in that respect. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely gave some signs as best as I possibly could over the years.
So you said that it takes years for them to process and accept all those things. So the moment that you came out to your mom, then who told your dad?
Yeah, so it's such an interesting thing. I mean, I could talk about this for ages, but my mother thought it was in our best interest for her to tell Dad, and I was perfectly fine with it, because there's also this double standard gender stereotype, with two men, and whether it's father son or not, and it's just like, is my dad gonna think I am a sissy or whatever? And it was kind of my bailout. It's like, okay, thanks mom, see you later. I basically took the car and went to my aunt's, and spent a couple nights there, and it was actually, it was totally fine. I mean, the thing is, guys, is that whether you know it or not, or whether you like it or not, there's a bit of a grieving process, and when you grieve, there's, probably 10 steps. It's like the anger, the fear, the everything else that's involved in that. It's not saying that the old me or the old you is dead. It's just the thoughts are totally changed and different. So there's a bit of a grieving process. And to clarify too, I'd love to add that even in the best of circumstances, like my parents were fantastic. Like Dad, there's a thing called conditional and unconditional love. And if you truly love your child, this really, at the end of the day, shouldn't be a problem if the love is unconditional, because that's just what it implies. If it is conditional, then that's where we as a community need to be there for you, as we have been over the years. There's been more family through friends over the past 20, 30 years or more than family being family themselves. So that's why we're very strong collectively together, because we've had to be there for each other. There's been plenty of stories, and even today it still happens, where there's not unconditional love and kids are thrown out from their homes.
Yes.
So
Especially, I'm going to add it again, like in the Philippines as well. I hear stories like teenagers coming out as lesbian or gay and stuff like that, and they're being despised, is that the term?
Yeah.
By their own family,
Yeah.
and they were cast out of their homes, things like that. So that's just, if you're going to think about it, like during that time when you came out, it's like the same era where is happening right now in the Philippines. Like, yes, it is very visual right now about the gay community, but there are still families, since we are very religious Christianity, stuff like that in the Philippines. Like, there's these scenarios still, like little homes, like they can't accept the fact that one of their family member is gay, things like that. So it will end up like being cast out of the family, and that's what you were talking about, the conditional and unconditional love, right? Which is, on the other hand, so there's always two faces of the coin, as they say, right? There are families like that, and most of the time there are families that are very accepting as well. Like this past few years, like Pride March is happening in the Philippines as well, and there are parents out there with the march with their children, and having banners supporting those children whose parents was not there, things like that. They're giving hugs.
That's awesome.
And kisses. Yes, and even I don't know what will happen in the next years or in the future, but slowly things are changing. But most of the time there's still restriction or still a wall kind of thing, but it's going to be like the different on how people are taking this issue. Like some parents are open-minded about it and some are not.
Well, and not only that too, I mean, being open and not open-minded about it today doesn't mean you don't have to be not open-minded about it tomorrow. Because we also have the ability to share knowledge. And whether I actually gave my mother, and I'm sure she could tell you the story perfectly, but I went to the university library and I actually found a piece of literature that I was able to give her. I didn't necessarily, after reading it myself, I wasn't 100% behind the literature, but it's irrelevant because it's from a perspective of coming out to a parent and how that can help a parent. But again, like, even if there is this conditional love where it's like not a full acceptance right away, there's still an opportunity. Like, not hope is not lost either, you know, because you can help educate the parent. You can help, you know, if they are showing you signs that they still want to care, then, you know, it's about, that point it's about education and tackling it head on. Like, what are the problems, and why is it that you cannot accept me, and trying to get to the root cause of that. So, and hopefully there is something salvageable there, but if there's not, you know, and that's a whole other series.